Keep my eyes set on the weather, set my sights out on the strong. I'm the will of all adventure, why would I walk when I could run? Hoist the sails on everlasting, let them carry us to Rome. I'm the spirit of the mermaid, I'm the huntress of the sea. I'm the current growing stronger, I'm the river wild and free. Hear the sirens calling towards me, I will not bend or break to thee. I'm the fury of the sea witch, I'm calling you to me. Whoa, whoa, see the sparkle of the lighthouse, hear the calling of the gulls. Foggy mornings dissipating, icy waters deep and still. Tear the pages of what's written, erase what has been done. Rewrite facts and oversightings, embrace a warmer sun. I'm the spirit of the mermaid, I'm the huntress of the sea. I'm the current growing stronger, I'm the river wild and free. Hear the sirens calling towards me, I will not bend or break to thee. I'm the fury of the sea witch, I'm calling you to me. Whoa, whoa,
Welcome back, folks, to NL Now, and I am so excited for our special guest here with me now. I have the wonderful Troy Stuckless from Jellybean Entertainment. Thank you for joining us, Troy. Now, before we get to your reptile friends, why don't you tell us about the other types of services that Jellybean offers?
Oh, of course. Thank you for having me today.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Jellybean Entertainment offers educational reptile shows. We do Nerf parties, bouncy castles. We also have UV dance parties, movie parties, and home theater parties, as well as photo booths and concessions like popcorn, cotton candy, and snow cones.
Well, that all sounds like great fun. So where can people book these services if they're interested?
They can do that by going to www.jellybeanentertainment.ca or visiting us on Facebook or Instagram at JellybeanNL. And lastly, they can call us or text us at 709-743-4774.
Well, that all sounds perfect. All right, Troy, why don't you tell us who we have here with us first?
Today, I have brought my friend Link, and Link is a northern blue-tongue skink, or blue-tongue lizard, from Australia. These little lizards make excellent pets. They're a very friendly lizard, as you can see. He's just having fun chilling out right here on the table. They call them blue-tongue skinks, or in Australia, blueies, because of the big blue tongue that you may see come out every now and then. And he uses that for a variety of things. One of the biggest things, though, is as a defense. So using your tongue as a defense doesn't come naturally, but for them, it does. In Australia, a lot of things that are venomous or poisonous usually are a bright color, like oranges, reds, or blues. And when this guy's predator comes along, he licks his tongue out and he waves it around in the air. And the predator thinks twice about eating him, afraid that he might be venomous or poisonous. But of course, I said it's a great pet, so I wouldn't suggest any venomous or poisonous animal as a pet. This guy here is an omnivore. He likes to eat things like berries and bugs, such as superworms, earthworms, caterpillars. They'll even eat snails. They have a very powerful bite, so they can crush little snail shells as well. It is also a type of scavenger. Do you know what scavengers are?
Scavenger? I'm not sure.
Scavengers are a type of animal that will eat pretty much anything, including things that are already dead. So this guy here, if it came across something that's already dead, it would take a little nibble of it. And unlike me or you, if we eat food that's been out for a long time in the sun, we will probably get a little bit sick. This guy here is able to digest it, no problem at all.
He seems very calm here today.
He is very calm today. I guess he really likes your tablecloth. It reminds me of his tongue.
Well, now we have 2 new friends here. Why don't you tell us about those?
What I have here today are 2 different types of tortoises. This little one here that you see, her name is Rosie. And Rosie is called a red-footed tortoise. And red-footed tortoises come from South America. And they don't get very big. They get to be about as big as what this one here is right now at full grown. They are omnivores, which are plant eaters as well as meat eaters, but the meat they eat isn't anything like chicken nuggets or anything like that. It's usually bugs that they find in the grasses or the vegetation that they eat. This girl here, her name is Kizzy, and she comes from the southern part of the Sahara Desert in Africa. These are the 3rd largest tortoises in the world. Kizzy here is only 17 years old, though, and she can live for upwards of 100 years. So they tend to grow really, really fast when they're young, but then slow down significantly. Now, she doesn't look like the 3rd largest tortoise in the world, but in 50 years' time, she'll be much, much bigger. These guys can get to be upwards of 200 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. Usually the males are 200 pounds. The females are a little bit smaller. These guys here are much, much smaller. They only get to be around 15 to 20 pounds. Do you know what the shell is made up of tortoise?
I don't.
It's the same thing that we have on our bodies. And it allows their shell to grow, and that's called keratin. And keratin is what makes up your fingernails, your toenails, and your hair. So unlike turtles that you see in cartoons, which come out of their shells, these turtles actually have to stay in their shell. It's a part of their body. Just like our chest and our back, they have a bottom and a top on their shell as well. One very cool thing about the sulcata tortoise in particular is that when it becomes this size, it has very little predators, pretty much non-existent. So if it can make it to a 15-year-old or 17-year-old tortoise in the wild, it will pretty much live out its full life. The biggest threat to these guys are tipping over on their backs and not being able to get back up again. And that goes for both of the tortoises. And that usually happens because they're very curious creatures and they like to check out the environment around them. And sometimes they go a little too far and tumble over. They also, when they get in fights with each other, because they're very territorial towards each other. And this is why I have lettuce in between the 2 of these guys here now, because they're more interested in eating than they are fighting. So once they get in a fight, it's not like the Ninja Turtles. They're not bringing out their swords or anything like that, or the nunchucks, not at all. What they do is they actually hit the other tortoise and ram the other tortoise and try to tip them over. And once they tip that other tortoise over, that means that they've won, and usually the other tortoise runs away. I said it's the third largest tortoise. It grows to be, like I said, about 200 pounds at most.
Yeah.
There's also two tortoises that are bigger. Do you know what they are?
I don't.
The Galapagos Island tortoise and Albright tortoise. So they both can be, one can be upwards of almost 1,000 pounds, the Galapagos Island tortoise. And the Aldebaran tortoise can get upwards of 600 pounds. So much, much bigger.
Yes.
But in saying that, a 200-pound tortoise is pretty big.
Well, folks, I hope you're enjoying and learning as much as I am here today. We'll be right back with Marshmallow the snake after a short commercial break. Welcome back to NL Now, folks, and if you're just tuning in before the break, we had Troy Stuckless here from Jellybean Entertainment with his Reptile Friends, and now we have the star of the show himself, Marshmallow.
Well, this little guy here is one of the most famous snakes that I know. His name is Marshmallow.
Yeah.
And Marshmallow is an albino Burmese python. Like Noodle, he is a Burmese python.
Yeah.
However, he is the male version of the Burmese python. And while he looks big, this is about as big as he'll ever get, which is about 11 feet long. Now, the female, like Noodle, will grow upwards of 20 feet. Marshmallow here is about, well, he's about 14 years old now.
Yeah.
And they can live upwards of 25 and 30 years.
Well.
And I'm sure that even as we start learning more and more things about snakes, we can increase that age as well to 35 and 40 years.
Wow.
I said that he's albino. Do you know what albino means?
No, I don't.
Well, albinoism happens in almost every species. It just means that it's a genetic difference where the animal in question doesn't have any dark pigment. So pigment is what gives our skin color, but it is what also gives their scales color. So in the wild, Marshmallow unfortunately probably wouldn't live very long because he wouldn't be able to blend into his environment. Normally, Burmese pythons are a color of brown and green and shades of white as well. You see some white here. And they're able to blend into the wetlands in which they live.
Yeah.
Another thing that happens to albino snakes and albino creatures is that their eyesight is very, very bad. So Marshmallow doesn't rely so much on his eyesight. He relies a lot on that tongue as he's flicking it out and smelling his environment. And on his face, you'll see these little tiny pits right on his face, right up here. And those there aren't just there to look pretty. They are used to sense differences in heat. So he's able to see very, very small differences in heat all across the room. So that helps him see as well. So the combination of his tongue and those pits across his nose, he doesn't really have to rely on his sight. Another cool thing that you'll see about snakes is that they never blink. So you'll never beat them in a staring contest.
No.
Maybe they'll beat you, and maybe you'll beat them in a staring contest. But what they have are eye caps. So they have little thin pieces of skin that go across their eyes that protect them as they're traveling through trees and bushes so they don't scrape their eyes. But when they shed their skin, and they shed it in one big piece, they also shed their eyeballs as well. And they grow a new piece and under again. So that's really cool to watch.
It is.
And the last thing I want to talk about with Marshmallow is that when we look at a snake, do you think it has a tail?
Yes, it looks like it.
It looks like it. It looks like it's one big tail.
It does.
But in fact, just like me and you, it has all the same differences all the way down its body. It has a neck, it has lungs, it has a heart, a stomach, kidneys, all that good stuff. And then at the end right here, where our legs would be, is where Marshmallow's tailless. So he has a little tiny tail. Most snakes do have a small tail.
Well, thank you so much, Troy, for joining us here today and all of your reptile friends. It's been great to have you all here. Folks at home, stay right there. We'll be back with more NL Now after this. Welcome back, folks, to NL Now here on NTV. And I'm here with today's wonderful musical guest, Rosemary. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
So I know one of the things you mentioned before our interview is that you recently signed with some new management. Would you like to talk a little about that?
Yeah, I'm really excited to be working with Dave Shears coming up in Hurricane Music. And I've just joined an incredible roster of musicians, and I'm so excited to be a part of the team. Baraka is a part of the team, and so is With Violet. And it's just going to be a great adventure. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of it, for sure.
Yeah, of course. Now, I know recently you've also been getting some recognition with various awards like Music NL and the ECMAs. So how does it feel to be seeing this type of recognition?
Well, it's incredibly validating. You know, you put in a lot of work, and it's really nice to hear when somebody appreciates what you do and the work that you're putting into your art. So it's really, really special feeling. And it's nice to have an award on the shelf now. So if I'm ever feeling down, I can just look at that and be like, you earned that. That's something that you worked on and you achieved. So yeah, it feels really good.
And now I know one of the other projects that you've worked on in the last little while was the Come From Away covers album. Why don't you tell us a little about that?
Oh, that was an incredible experience to be able to work with David Hine and Irene Sankoff. Like, I was FaceTiming with David Hine, and I was just blown away that I had that opportunity. And getting to arrange a song for that album, that particular song that I did was I Am Here. And it wasn't a full song start to finish when we approached it. It was a sort of a recurring theme that came throughout the whole show. So being able to work with David on arranging it in a way that it would become a full song, and really using my creativity and seeing how they worked with it and bounced off of my ideas was it was an amazing experience. And it was all done during peak pandemic lockdowns, and I was able to record it all in my home, and it was just really cool to see what you can do with what you have, you know? Yeah.
Now, we're going to do something now we've been doing with all of our guests on this season. It's a little game called Get to Know Me. So I'll ask you 5 questions, and you'll come back with the first thing that pops into your head.
Okay, let's do it.
Your favorite food?
Roast beef and Yorkshire pudding.
Your favorite color?
Orange.
Your favorite thing about living in Newfoundland and Labrador?
Being close to the ocean.
A musician, if you could pick any musician to collaborate with on a song, who would you pick and why?
Oh my goodness. I have to think really quickly on this, don't I? Oh my goodness, there's so many great ones. Alan Doyle.
That's a great one. And your favorite thing about performing live in front of an audience?
I think it's just seeing the faces in the crowd and seeing them enjoy the music as much as I do. Yeah.
Well, Rosemary, thank you again so much for coming in today. It's been great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's been nice to meet you.
Now, if people want to check out some more of your music or, buy a copy, where can they do that?
Well, all my music is on, the classic streaming stations, Spotify and Apple Music and all those things. I have my own website, rosemarylawton.com, that you can reach me if you ever want to talk to me. And then, all of my YouTube videos are all on there. I actually have a tutorial program that I have on YouTube now where I'm teaching little basic beginner lessons on how to play the fiddle. So if you want to learn how to play the fiddle, you can see those videos. And my records are on sale at Fred's Records and some of your local record shops.
Well, that all sounds great. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Now, to close out the show, Rosemary Lawton.